What's up, crazies? In today's video, we're gonna dive back into the EverTune, and I'm gonna show you how to fine tune and intonate your strings so that you can have a perfectly tuned guitar. Let's get into it. In the last video, we talked about how to achieve optimum bend by increasing the tension of the string all the way up to the bend stop position between zone 2 and zone 3. This is what allowed the pitch of the string to go up once you apply some tension to it from bending, right? Now that we know how to get to that particular spot, we want to bring it back down. We're going to release some of the tension, but not too far, because be mindful of how your bridge moves as you apply or adjust a lot of this tension, because this is actually changing the length of your string as far as it goes from the saddle to the nut. So this both plays into fine tuning as well as intonation. When you have this guitar set in the appropriate place, which is just at the threshold of the bend stop, all of your saddles should be in the correct positions for your intonation. So be sure to keep that in mind. So now we're diving into the E string here, and if we play the E string, on our tuner, we can see that it's a little bit flat. So we're gonna have to whip out our handy hex key. If you don't have one, or if you've lost yours, you can use any 2.5mm hex key. It's the same size and it will work. But EverTune was gracious enough to hook everybody up with one of these with every purchase of a guitar that had an EverTune Bridge on it. So if you lost it, that's your own dang fault. Sorry about that. So what we'll do is we're gonna go ahead and make sure that we are in zone 2. No bend, right? So this is where you want to be in order to fine tune your string. You want to be in a position where there's no bend. You also don't want to be too close to the bend stop, where as you increase the tension on the bridge from the saddle, you're increasing the tension into the bend stop going into zone 3. So you want to pull it back. I'd say a good half a turn at least on your tuning peg back into zone 2. And that's where you're going to make these fine tuning adjustments. Let's go ahead and do this. I'm gonna insert my hex key into the saddle itself right here, right? And we're a little bit flat, so you're gonna turn it righty-tighty to make it tight and lefty-loosey to loosen the tension. So if we go here, we're gonna go ahead and turn it right. And if we just keep an eye on the tuner, right? We'll see as I get a bit closer, you are going to be able to turn it a few times with very little effect to the tuning. So keep that in mind, especially if you're way off. And every time you change your strings, you're gonna need to do this, because no two strings are exactly the same. No two pieces of wood are exactly the same. All these things are slightly different. So when you add new strings to your EverTune system, you're gonna have to fine tune it just like this. But they shouldn't be so far out of whack that it would be very difficult. You would probably be doing just as much tuning as we're doing just now. It might be slightly flat or slightly sharp, and you're just gonna nudge it back into place. And once we've got that, where we are in tune, just like that, now we have E, but we also have E with no bend. Right? So let's take this out and check that again. Yep. Okay, so now that the E string is in tune, we just repeat this process through all of the strings, right? So if we have the A string, make sure that it's in a spot. No bend, checking our A string. Of course, it's already in tune because I've already had this guitar set up. We can see now that that's there at A and it's perfectly in tune. Now we can go ahead and tune it up to the bend stop and then right back down. And notice on the tuner, when I tune it up into the bend stop, it goes sharp, and then I bring it right back down to A. So that even when I'm playing the string, I get minimal change in the tuning. So when I pluck the string and it adds tension to the string and actually makes the string go sharp, the system is working correctly when that doesn't actually change the pitch as you strum the string. That's where you're supposed to be. So the next thing we're gonna talk about is intonation, because even though you've already done all the fine tuning to each of the strings, if your intonation is out of whack, then as you play up the neck, you're gonna be out of tune. and that's going to completely defeat the purpose of this entire system. But one of the really, really super awesome things about intonating a guitar with an EverTune is that as you change the position of the saddle, it doesn't change the tuning because it's set into zone 2 where there is no change in pitch. So as you adjust the saddle, the tuning stays perfectly in place. So guitars with EverTunes are actually the most easy guitars to intonate because of that fact. Usually on a guitar with a tune-o-matic or a fixed bridge or a Floyd Rose, which nobody wants to mess with that. But on these guitars, when you change the position of the saddle to adjust your intonation, as the saddle, say, moves further back, it's then pulling, making the distance between the nut up here and the bridge down here longer. So that makes your intonation point flatter. Here's the idea in a nutshell as far as intonation goes. Your main thing is to make sure that your open note and your 12th fret note are the same. And there's also like checking the 12th fret harmonic, but if your open note and your fretted 12th fret note are basically the same, then you're good. Most electric guitars are playing with action that is low enough that you don't really need to worry about what the 12th fret harmonic is doing. You just need to make sure that your open note on that string and your fretted 12th fret note are exactly the same. And at that point, you're gonna have good intonation across the fretboard. So let's check this A string. Now I've done the fine tuning for the A string, but let's check the 12th fret and see how that fares on the tuner. So this is showing that my fretted A as opposed to my open A is a little bit sharp. So in this case, again, what we're doing, we're basically changing the distance between the fretted note on the 12th fret and where the position of the bridge is. And you're adjusting it backwards or forwards in order to change that length. And when you change this length, whether you make it longer or shorter, it's gonna change whether the note at the 12th fret sits flat or sharp as opposed to the open note. I know that sounds like a lot, but just imagine it like this. Open note needs to be in tune, which on an EverTune is very easy to do. Just tune it from zone 2 and you're fine. Now we're just gonna go ahead and play the 12th fret and we're gonna check that tuning. And it shows that it's a little bit sharp. So what that means is the distance between the 12th fret note and the edge of the saddle where the string is going over the saddle, it means that that's too short. When it's short, the shorter the string, the higher the pitch is. It's the same idea. When you do this, you're making the string very short. That's why it goes higher in pitch. The same idea applies even when you're not playing up the neck. If you're changing the saddle and the saddle is closer to the fretboard, the smaller the distance, the higher pitched the note is gonna be. So in this case, what we need to do is on this A string, we need to pull the saddle back a little bit and make it longer. Now, on a regular guitar without an EverTune bridge, every time that you make one of these adjustments to the saddle, you're gonna have to go back and retune your open note because there isn't this tension system keeping that note in tune and maintaining that pitch. So if you have a fixed bridge or a tune-o-matic bridge and you're doing this very same intonation adjustment, you're gonna have to go back and retune your open note. But on an EverTune, you don't have to do that. Once you've tuned it and it's in tune, it'll stay in tune so long as you have enough room and play in zone 2. So again, get up to the bend stop and then bring it back at least a good half of a turn on your tuning machine in order to put it in a pretty good spot. That's give or take. You might need a little bit more or a little bit less, depending. It's all gonna depend on the gauge string you're using and your own setup, so keep that in mind. So if we've got this here and it's in tune, and we know that this is slightly sharp, which we won't really need to make much of an adjustment to this, but what we wanna do is, the idea is that we are going to move the saddle backwards and we're gonna make it flatter, right? So in order to do this, what we're gonna do is actually tighten the saddle screw in the back, because as you tighten the screw, it's gonna pull it longer and make the scale slightly longer. So now let's check it. And that's exactly where it needs to be. Now, I tune the note to the bend stop and it's good to go. And that's it. Apply this very same technique to every string on the guitar, and you're gonna have a guitar that's perfectly in tune, perfectly intonated, and then as soon as you bring it up to the bend stop, it's gonna play like butter. So, I hope this video was enjoyable. If it was, if you got any value out of it, do me a favor and hit that like button. Drop me a comment below. Let me know how well this worked out for you. Let me know if you have any other questions. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace! If your guitar isn't properly intonated, then it's gonna sound like anyway. So that's what you gotta worry about. The beauty of doing videos in the basement is getting to hear every time your girlfriend flushes the toilet upstairs.